guys, it's Karina here with another video. So it has been a hot minute since I've been on my YouTube channel, and today I just want to do an update video. So I'm gonna sprinkle through a bunch of things, and at some point I hope to do videos about some of the things I'll talk about in more detail. So yeah, I'm just gonna give you guys an update of the last year because I was scrolling through my videos and the last time I gave like a proper update was like last summer. So you're getting the full report. So, since last summer, I started my 4th year of university and it went great. I really enjoyed it. I took some amazing courses. This past fall, I had some dating experiments and tried out polyamory a bit. So that was fun, and then I did end up settling down with somebody and we explored a relationship for a bit, and unfortunately things ended in the winter, but it was really fun. And yeah, so that was a really great experience. And in the fall I also came out as non-binary. So for me personally, I identify as non-binary and also woman. So I use she, they pronouns now. And for me this feels like extremely comfortable, and by using she, they pronouns, it's embracing my woman identity and my non-binary identity. And this was something I had been thinking about for a while, but was really nervous to make the transition just because I just wasn't sure what people would think of me. And then it was someone in my life who actually inspired me to come out and kind of realize that I can have two identities. And since then it's been like really freeing to explore my masculine side, and as I'll get into more later, I want to get into drag more, so that has also been an amazing way to explore my gender. So I really highly recommend, if you're unsure, to explore a little bit, try out different pronouns and try to meet some queer people who can help you in your gender journey, because that can definitely help a lot. So yeah, and for me personally, like the Gender and Sexuality Center at my school really helped, and something a friend kind of nicknamed me after I came out as non-binary is Rin, which I really like because Rin is a very like neutral name, and my drag name is actually Rainbow Rin because I've always loved rainbows, and my non-binary name is Rin. And the idea with my drag is to kind of mix the masculine and feminine together. So that's the idea. But yeah, as for the rest of the year, I went to Montreal, so that was really fun. I got to go to the Biodome, which is essentially a place with different like eco systems representing different places, so that was a lot of fun. And I got to go to a few different cool events this past year. I went to a Kiki Ball, which is essentially this big event that practices ballroom culture. It's something very popular in the Black community, and it's an opportunity to practice drag, but it's in a different format where like there's different categories and people will walk the runway and then they'll get like scored, and it's a whole competition. It's a really fun atmosphere. I'd recommend going if you ever have the chance. So I did that, which was amazing. I also went to a sex positive comedy show, which was an incredible opportunity. And I also went to a kink party, which was a safe place to explore kink and just have a good time. So that was a lot of fun. And then as for fun courses I've taken this year, I got the opportunity to take a Politics of Kink class, which was really amazing. This class, also I guess just a step back a step, to explain what kink is a bit. I do hope to do a video more in depth about this at a later date, but kink is essentially this idea of experimenting with different types of role play and with the dominant and the submissive, and it can look and come up in many different forms. There's definitely a lot of stigma about the kink community, but overall it's a community that really does practice consent. So my Politics of Kink class was really about breaking down that stigma that the community has faced and talking about the ethics of kink. So it was a really amazing course, and you might have noticed on my YouTube channel I have a video about Wonder Woman, and that was my main project for that class. So I talked about how Wonder Woman destigmatizes kink and creates space for female empowerment and also non-binary empowerment and kink. So yeah, I highly recommend you check out that video. Another cool course I took this past semester was called Queer Arts. In this class we went over a variety of different queer arts, and it was really enlightening. And one cool thing we did too was an exercise by someone named Linda Berry, where you draw a spiral and you try to make the lines as close together as possible without touching. And this is just a great exercise to get your mind flowing and then into a creative space if you want to write poetry or do art afterwards. It's really a helpful tool. And it's also just a really relaxing thing to doodle if you're feeling a little stressed. So yeah, that class was amazing. I also did a sociology of education class, which was really cool to break down what we're learning and how it indoctrinates us into different systems in our everyday life through capitalism and stuff like that. So my main project for that class was tackling how sex education is taught in Catholic schools and some of the messages that it ingrains in people, like to have safe sex, just don't have sex at all, which is not like the best message to learn as teenagers and going into adulthood. Sex is naturally something we might want, and telling teenagers just to not have sex is not an effective way to create an environment for safe sex. So that was a really cool project to take on. And then I also took a sociology of sex and sexuality class, which really got into the origins of what is sexuality and what is sex, what is gender, really asking all of these big questions. So that was really cool. And then I also took a gender class, gender and sexuality class in Africa. So this class was very neat and really talked about colonization and how that impacted the view and point of view of gender and sexuality, and kind of where gender and sexuality are now at in Africa. So that was a really cool class to take as well. So in the year overall, I had a really fun time, but towards the end, I would say in April, I did experience a bit of burnout. I just got really overwhelmed with life. I was going through some personal things, and specifically I've also been struggling for like the last year or so with IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome. Yep, super fun. And essentially it is a syndrome where you are very sensitive to certain foods and experience a lot of bloating and not an easy time with bowel movements. So it's not a fun thing to deal with, and there isn't a clear science on how to treat it. So I've been on quite a journey. Just recently I started seeing a naturopath, and for me that's been the most helpful thing. But it's definitely been a struggle with that, and also I've been low iron lately. I'm anemic, so it's been challenging to come to terms with that and then also deal with my energy levels. So in April, everything just kind of got overwhelming, and I also started dating 2 new people, and that got overwhelming, so I just like broke things off and just focused on myself for a bit. And after finishing school, I also completed our research project I was doing with a professor. So you might have noticed my most recent video was on what is creativity, which I highly recommend you go check out. But this video explains what creativity is and how and what is the best process to kind of unleash a creative energy. So in my research, I found that the 3 key ingredients to creativity is observing, so observing maybe someone do art, trial and error, so engaging in a process where you try things and you see where it goes and hopefully learn from your mistakes, and also collaboration, so asking other people what they think. So it was a really big deal to finish that project because I had been working on it for, I think, close to like a year and a half, so it was, yeah, very exciting when I did finish it. And then moving into the summer, I was supposed to start a job with the government, but there were some delays, and I actually just started this past week. So I had an entire like month and a half off, which was the most time I've had off in a really long time, which is actually kind of crazy. I just had not taken intentional time off, and I set a lot of intentions for this month off. So I did yoga every day during this time, and I got this membership at this place near to me, and it was and has been amazing. Definitely some things I've enjoyed at the yoga studio I go to is learning about breath work through Kalindi, which is a type of breath work yoga class. I've also really enjoyed the Soma classes, which is getting into your moon energy, and it's a bit of a slower type of yoga. And then some cool things I've learned in yoga is if you work on the screen all day, every few minutes you kind of want to look at something far in the distance rather than close up, because when we look at things close up, it drains a lot of energy from us. So looking at things at a distance is less intense. And something else I've also learned is something called eye yoga. So if you're having a headache or, again, looking at a screen for too long, you can practice eye yoga. So to do eye yoga, you look to the left, you look to the right, you look up, down, right corner, left corner, bottom left corner, right bottom corner. So essentially you just kind of engage with moving your eyes in different directions, and this just kind of gets your eyes moving and hopefully decreases the amount of strain that you've been putting on your eyes. So yeah, that's been a really cool thing to experience. Also in this month, I've been engaging in a type of therapy called EMDR, which stands for Eye Movement Desensitization and Reprocessing. So this is a type of therapy that is super helpful if you've been through anything traumatic. So I started this therapy and we've worked through several of my own traumatic memories. And essentially you go through the traumatic memory with your therapist and they go like this. And through this process, it desensitizes you to the trauma that you experienced. So it's an extremely healing tool, and it has helped me so much. Like, I would highly recommend it. It definitely can be more effective than talk therapy in some scenarios. And for me, it's worked wonders, and I feel like I'm building my confidence again, which has been really incredible. Yeah, and I'll get into a bit more growth stuff in a bit. But yeah, something else I've also been doing is I started my own art business this year, which has been so incredible. I have done approximately 5 markets at this point. My most recent market was my most successful. It was a queer mega market, and there was over 50 vendors, and I just did really well during this market, and it was just so amazing to sell art with my fellow queer allies and queer buddies. So yeah, it was really fun, and I've been loving putting my art out there. It is so amazing to see people's reactions when they buy your art and tell you how much your art means to them. If you are an artist, I would highly recommend get your stuff out there, show the world. It's so important to share our art with others. It's something that's brought me so much joy, and I think has brought a lot of other people joy. So yeah, and in terms of like finding markets, I honestly just follow a lot of Instagram pages and then just find opportunities in my community. And also my school has offered a lot of opportunities, so that's been really cool. And then I've also been involved in a social justice group this year. So I'm working on different disability projects around campus with them, as well as painting a mural soon in that office. So essentially the social justice group I work with, they are a research center, so they support a lot of different groups through different social justice movements that they are wanting to work towards, and they fund that. So it's a really great group to work with, and I've really enjoyed it. They really practice principles such as mutual aid and anarchy, so they've been a really amazing group to work with. And then as of late, I've also been doing a monthly craft club with friends, so that's been really fun. It's so amazing to share art with other people and do that together. It's a great way to hold me accountable to doing the little things for my art business, but also just doing things to work on creative projects. And then this summer I'm also doing Frisbee, so that's been really fun. And this summer I'm actually an assistant coach, so it's been really fun to mentor younger girls in doing Frisbee and practicing that and getting the opportunity to be in a mentor position again. So moving on to some books and shows that I've checked out in the last little bit. That I've found really awesome is Pose. It's a TV show on Disney Plus. It is about ballroom culture. Specifically, it really focuses on Black transgender women's experiences in the ballroom scene, and I would highly recommend. It's a great show to familiarize yourself with some more of the struggles that Black transgender women face, and also specifically it takes place during the HIV/AIDS crisis, so also a really good representation of what it would have been like back then. Another show that I recently finished was called Sirens. It has a polyamorous throuple in it, and it's a show about mermaids, so I really enjoyed that. Sense8 is another cool show. It is kind of sci-fi, and essentially 8 people are like interconnected through their minds and are able to like teleport to each other's places that they live. So it's a really interesting show, and it also has like themes of polyamory. And lastly, Wonderlust is a show I recently watched. Oh, and High School. Okay, wait. We'll do Wonderlust first. Wonderlust is a show about a married couple that opens up their marriage because they are having challenges in their marriage and want to experiment with other partners. So it's a really cool show, and the mom in that show is a counselor, so there's some interesting dynamics. And then lastly, a show I checked out is called High School. This is a really cool show about Tegan and Sarah. They are celebrities. They produce amazing music. My favorite song by them is Hey, I'm Just Like You. And they are 2 twins who are queer, and the show High School is on Amazon, and they essentially, the show is about their journey in high school and coming out as queer and their relationship as sisters and discovering music. So it's really cute. And then I've been really into graphic novels. So as I mentioned, I took a queer arts class. In this class, I read my first ever graphic novel, Fun Home by Alison Bechdel. What a great introduction to graphic novels. Alison Bechdel is amazing. Fun Home is essentially a book about her life coming out as a lesbian and discovering that her father is a pedophile and is also gay. He essentially has an affair with one of her babysitters, and yeah, so she kind of comes to terms with this and tells a story about her coming out and how this affects her journey when she finds out that her dad is also gay. So it's an incredible story. The comic book is amazing. And then there's also a musical, which is also so fun. I highly recommend you check this out. I also read Alison Bechdel's book, The Secret to Superhuman Strength. And I'm also just started another one of her books called Dykes to Watch Out For. And then she has one more book that she wrote about her mother that I'll be checking out. But yeah, the reason I love graphic novels though is because you can read it in like 3 hours, and it's so visually stimulating. Like, you get to absorb the images while also absorbing the words. So it's a really great way to read. I've also read this book called Genderqueer, which is about discovering, specifically about this person who's discovered that they are genderqueer, and it's their story. And then I also read Fine, a comic on gender. This book is really great because someone essentially is interviewing a bunch of people about what they think gender is, and then in the process the author is coming to terms with their own gender, and eventually they come out as non-binary too. So it's a really cool story. And lastly, a book I've read recently is called Lost Connections. This book is so amazing. I highly recommend. Essentially, it tackles depression and explains from a biological perspective how it affects us, from a psychological perspective, and a social perspective. So depression is caused by those three things, but is also the solution to those three things. So the book really dissects that, and it also talks a bit about universal basic income, which I want to make a video about. So I'll do a video about that, but also talk more in depth about this book because I have a lot to say about this book. Anyways, it is definitely the best book I've read this year. And then in terms of little projects I'm working on, as I mentioned, I want to get more into drag, so I've been experimenting with different looks. You can follow me on Instagram, RainbowRin123, and I haven't actually had a drag performance yet. So my goal is by the end of the month to do my first drag performance. I'm planning on doing a song by Chappell Roan and Beyonce. So I'm really excited for that, and hopefully I'll make a post video about how it goes. Yeah, and then another project I want to work on is writing my own comic book. I essentially want to do a memoir about my life, so it probably is going to have queer themes, obviously, and tackle different aspects of things I've been through. So yeah, I'm kind of just in the process of writing random memories, and then we're going to kind of see where that goes. And then yeah, some other random things I've been up to lately is I've had some outdoor adventures. I biked all the way to this little town near me, and it was really fun. I just spent the day biking there, and then I got there and I just enjoyed the beach all day. And it was a big deal because like it was an hour-and-a-half bike ride there and like an hour bike ride home, so it was like a bigger bike trip that I've done. So it was just really fun to spend the day by myself and spend the day journaling and doing art, and it was just a very special day, and just nothing went wrong that day, so that was really cool. And I also saw a bear that day, and nothing went wrong with the bear. The bear was like here, and I was like, no, sorry. I was like here, and the bear was like there. It was like on the side of the road, but I wasn't there long, so the bear was not a threat. Yeah, so there was that, and then I also did a backcountry camping trip with some of my friends recently, so that was super fun, and a big deal because we did like over close to 20 kilometers of hiking that weekend, so it was a learning and growing experience, and I was super proud of myself for making it through. And then one last thing I've been up to is trying to find more poly community. So I've made some polyamorous friends, and I've also found a poly group where they have facilitated discussions, and it's an amazing group where you can also be supported by fellow polyamorous people. So that's been like really amazing. Yeah, I want to do a video going into more depth about poly, what it is, and how important it is to find community and get that support being in a world surrounded by mostly monogamous people. So to wrap this video up, I want to kind of end with some things I've learned this past year / things I'm working on right now. So yeah, definitely a big thing I've learned this year is that trial and error is so important when trying to figure out your schedule and trying to figure out how much time you need to rest. We never know how much time we're going to need to rest. Our bodies are always changing, and the amount of time we need alone is always changing, I find. So I've just been really learning to give myself grace for that, as well as also giving myself permission to have trial and error in my love life. I just want to know and like figure out the relationship style I want and go for it and have that, but it's not that simple. Sometimes we do just need to date around a bit and experiment and see where things go, and sometimes you don't know, you don't like something until you try it, you know? So it's been really important for me to realize like I'm not just gonna wake up one day and be in the perfect relationship type situation that I want. It's gonna take time and effort. So that's been like a really big thing I've been learning. I've also been still really learning to trust myself, which I find extremely challenging. I just, have a hard time making decisions sometimes and trusting that I know what's best for me. So that's something I'm trying to work on. I've also been trying to work on not people pleasing so much. I really am afraid of conflict. I'm a 9 on the Enneagram, so we're peacemakers. And I just find in a lot of my relationships I really tend to bottle things up and build resentment, and I really want to avoid doing that because I don't think that's healthy for my body. And I think just practicing saying no and practicing saying what you actually think is just such good practice for relationships and your relationship with yourself. So yeah, I think that's been a really big growing thing for me. And something that someone said to me recently is like, make friends with conflict. Like, conflict's not something we need to be afraid of. Conflict helps us grow. And something I've also learned recently that my friend taught me is that we have 3 instincts as people. We have our sexual instinct, which is our need for intimacy, and it's not necessarily sexual related. And then we have our social instinct, which is our need to have social connections. And then there is our self-preservation instinct. So this is how we work towards preserving ourselves. So that could be, you know, making sure you have more than enough food on your plate every day. This could be really managing your finances. So we kind of have these 3 different instincts, but for me, like, my strongest instincts are my social and my sexual, and then my self-preservation instinct is low. So that means that sometimes I'll always be kind of pushing for romantic relationships in my life or more social connections. And that's not a bad thing, but it's important to be aware of what you're leaning towards and what you actually need. I think lately I've been struggling with some loneliness being single, and I've wanted to get into a relationship because I have an instinct to love. But the truth is, I think right now I need to focus on myself and my health. So I'm trying to ignore that instinct and let it be over here for a bit and explore that instinct again when I feel ready. So yeah, that's like some things I've been reflecting with, and I've also just been really trying to grow in my self-compassion for myself. I often give myself hugs or like little kisses, and I find that just makes my day is so much better, giving myself that bit of encouragement when I'm afraid to do things. Oh, also something I've learned in yoga too is something called heart openers. So like one of them is you go like this, and then you go like that, and you come back in, and you go out. And it just opens up this heart space, and it's really cleansing. So yeah, I've just been trying to take advantage of my little moments to open up my energy and my body and my aura. So yeah, that's a little crazy update about where I've been at, and I really hope to do a more thorough video on polyamory, kink, and gender. So that will hopefully be coming up, and yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and yeah, I'm sending all my positive energy your way. Okay, bye-bye! Alright, so now it is time for the room tour. So, this is my cute little room. That's my wall hanging. And then here's my bed. Very comfy. My grandma made this quilt. Here's my art wall, which I'm very proud of. And then we've got my dresser. And then on this wall over here, we've got like a collage of a bunch of inspiring quotes and stuff. And this little rainbow my friend Shannon made for me. And then, yeah, this is my mirror. There's me. Hi. And then I've got some art pieces here. This is off-centered. Let's fix that. Oh boy. There we go. She fixed. There's my calendar. This is from Heartstopper. If you've seen the show, you'll get the reference. And then I have mushroom decor all across the ceiling. Oh, and here too I have glow-in-the-dark stars. And then here is my picture wall. And here's my dead butterfly wall. The last one I framed myself. The other 3 I got at a market. And then, oops. And then yeah, this is my window. There's a nice little wall hanging thing and some crystals, a butterfly thing. yeah, so that's pretty much it for my room, and then I'll show you a bit of the apartment. Yeah, we've got a pretty epic window there, and then here's our kitchenette, and then down that way is the bathroom and the laundry room. So yeah, there's my cute little apartment tour. Okay.